These guys hear me? Hey, Honey Wash Day. This is Toksa Hour. I am Maggie Ross, and I am live from Porcupine, South Dakota, where the porcupines roam along Porcupine Creek in the trees of Porcupine Bay. Oh, goodness. Well, it's been a busy week. We've had quite a bit of stuff going on in the world. It seems like time time does not stand still. I mean, I think that's an understanding that time does not stand still. I left my kafia at work, so I am wearing my journalism shirt to support the journalists in Gaza. Um, we have this side. We have the watermelon and the press. So you see their press jackets all say that. So you know how I can make this so it's viewable unless I move my screen, I guess maybe. So a lot has been happening. A lot has been happening, but at the same time, nothing is happening for the people in Gaza. We have protests, we still have people marching, we still have a lot of noise being made, but nothing. But I will say this, Zoran Mamdani was elected as the Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York. And he has given hope, I think, to people. He's not a established Democrat. He is Muslim, so now you have a lot of people like screaming around about a Muslim being the mayor of New York when the largest population of Jewish people live in New York. And guess who was voting for him? A lot of the Jewish population. It's really crazy how things have been weaponized here. Religion is weaponized. I just saw an interview that was being done by some Zionists making the argument for changing the rules and including the Jewish people as a minority in the United States. So they argue that they are the smallest minority in the United States. They are 2%. But yet they fail to acknowledge like Hawaiians. They lump us all together as Native people. They lump us all together so that we make 2.4% of the population in the United States. So we are a bigger minority, a larger minority. But that's just crazy how they do that. And then anyway, so it's the poor me, woohoo me kind of messaging that they're doing on this. So what they're doing is they're capitalizing on all the money that is available for nonprofits and small business owners. So they're able to then get the startup funds and get all of that because they are classifying themselves as a minority and they are the smallest is the messaging that they're doing. And Donald Trump is letting them do it. I don't know. So I was asking Chat GPT this morning. I was asking it about birthright citizenship because we had that recent ruling. And I wasn't very specific, so it came out and told me that the United States versus Wong Kim Ark in 1898 The issue was whether a child born in the U.S. to Chinese parents who were not U.S. citizens was a U.S. citizen under the 14th Amendment. So the 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So let's see here. Wong Kim Ark was born in San Francisco in 1873 to Chinese parents legally residing in the U.S. After a trip to China, Wong was denied re-entry into the U.S. in 1895 on the grounds that he was not a citizen. So this is like well over 100 years of arguing around about citizenship and immigrants. The U.S. government argued he wasn't subject to U.S. jurisdiction because his parents were subjects of China. Subjects of China. The Supreme Court ruled 6-2 in favor of Wong Kim Ark. It affirmed that birthright citizenship applies to nearly all individuals born on U.S. soil, regardless of their parents' nationality. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof was interpreted broadly. Anyone born in the U.S. who is not a child of a foreign diplomat or occupying enemy forces is subject to U.S. jurisdiction. The court emphasized the common law principle of jus soli, right of the soil, not jus sanguinis, right of blood. I better practice my Latin. It distinguished between temporary allegiance immigrants and those included like diplomats. So Wong Kim Ark's case set a binding precedent that continues to apply today. This means children born in the U.S. are automatically citizens, even if their parents are undocumented immigrants. Controversy. Some political figures, including ChatGPT, is in such denial, I'll tell you, in such denial. It says that it will not let Donald Trump be the current president. No matter what information I feed Chat, it absolutely denies. So it says, including former President Trump. So it says, have challenged birthright citizenship, arguing it should not apply to children of undocumented immigrants. No Supreme Court case has overturned Wong Kim Ark. Any major change would likely require a constitutional amendment or a new Supreme Court interpretation, which has not happened. And so this is where we're at with birthright citizenship. Exceptions to birthright citizenship: children of foreign diplomats, children of occupying foreign forces, children born to sovereign tribal nations. In early interpretations, though, now Native Americans are citizens under later laws. So we, as Native Americans, at this time, were not considered U.S. citizens. And so because we make arguments of our sovereignty. It is the Supreme Court that says we are domestic dependents. And so the Supreme Court says we are before the sovereign tribal nations interpretation or understanding. So this is a big issue, I mean, for tribal people anyways, it should be. The summary: Wong Kim Ark, 1898, confirmed that the 14th Amendment grants birthright citizenship to nearly everyone born in the U.S. It remains the foundation of how U.S. citizenship is determined for people born on U.S. soil. This ruling is still the law of the land. And so I'm asking Chat, what did the recent Supreme Court rule in regards to Donald Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship? And so then it just says that has not happened yet. I mean, I'm serious. It's just complete denial that Donald Trump is our president. So I went over to DeepSeek and I asked DeepSeek, And it says, as of June 24th, the U.S. Supreme Court has not ruled on any executive order by Donald Trump regarding birthright citizenship. So what it's saying here, in 2018, then President Donald Trump said he planned to issue an executive order to end birthright citizenship. Legal scholars widely disputed whether an executive order could override the Constitution, and no such order was ever officially implemented until 2025. The Supreme Court has never directly ruled on whether the 14th Amendment citizenship clause applies to children of undocumented immigrants, though precedent strongly supports birthright citizenship. So, and DeepSeek is referencing to U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark. No Supreme Court case has overturned birthright citizenship. Any attempt to restrict it through executive action would likely face immediate legal challenges. So that's where we're at. Now, if I just do a regular search about this, so usually these AI engines are supposed to comb the internet for you and kind of give you a summary of what people are saying. So the biggest thing about what has happened with the Supreme Court's ruling, they didn't rule. Everybody is like saying like they ruled, right? They ruled in favor. They did not rule in favor of Donald Trump in regards to birthright citizenship. There was a question within the filing that the Supreme Court addressed. So the Supreme Court delivered a major win to President Donald Trump on Friday in his ongoing war with the federal judiciary, limiting the power of courts to step in and block policies on a nationwide basis in the short term while judges review their legality. And so what they ruled is saying, like, if I went to go file in Rapid City in the federal court, if I was challenging something, this birthright citizenship, if I filed there, the federal judge could not put an injunction and said that everywhere it stopped, that nobody could take it up until this was resolved here. So that's what the Supreme Court ruled. So the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 ruling, said, let's see, it says, important win for Trump. The Supreme Court 6-3 ruling could have far-reaching consequences for Trump's second term, even if his birthright citizenship order is never enforced. That's because it will limit the power of courts to strike down other policies in the future. Presidents of both parties have complained about nationwide injunctions for years, and Trump has noted correctly that there have been far more issued against him than presidents in the past. That's because he's an idiot. But anyways, I digress. Lower courts, for instance, have used the orders to temporarily block his efforts to deport migrants under the Alien Enemies Act and prohibit transgender service members in the military. My screen keeps jumping all over the place. So what has happened here? Anyway, so that's basically what has transpired for that ruling. A lot of people are like jumping up and down, like birthright citizenship does not exist, or it got overturned and Trump was a genius. Well, he can't do it without changing the Constitution or getting the Supreme Court to, like with Roe v. Wade, where they give a different interpretation. So how will that affect tribal nations? That's what we should be asking. And these are questions that we should be asking ourselves um, because MAGA and the right are so, their mind is so, how would you say, I don't want to say, maybe it's corrupted, but their minds are so filled with hate that whatever wins they can get, like they look at somebody and think, oh, that's my enemy, and so this is what I got to do. I got to get everybody against, so it's like that narcissistic behavior where you incorporate the flying monkeys and you go around. So that's what MAGA is for Trump, is they're the flying monkeys. They run around and do all this work for him in Congress or whatever. And what's her name, Marjorie Taylor Greene, once said to Trump when he was trying to go to war with Iran, said, um, you are not MAGA, I am. And so letting him know. So, what does this mean? According to chat, it's saying legal status of native citizenship unchanged. Tribal citizenship is not determined by the U.S. Constitution, but by the tribes themselves, which is true. The executive order would likely not interfere with tribal sovereignty or tribal enrollment criteria. U.S. citizenship of Native children could be impacted. In broader communities or among Native people with mixed status families, example, one undocumented parent, there could be confusion or risk. Some tribes have members whose families extend into Mexico or Canada. This might complicate birth registration and U.S. citizenship claims. Threat to legal precedent. A challenge to birthright citizenship undermines the 14th Amendment, which is also critical in defending Native civil rights in U.S. courts. Weakening this protection could affect broader jurisdiction and civil rights claims. So I think like we Native Americans become citizens under a federal act. And I think it's 1928. Let's see, it says we became citizens. So before 1924, it was limited citizenship. Before the 20th century, most Native people were not considered U.S. citizens, even if they were born within the borders of the United States. They could only become citizens through specific legal pathways, such as under the Dawes Act. Native people in 1887, Native people accepted individual land allotments and adopted the habits of civilized life could become U.S. citizens, essentially through assimilation. Marriage. Native women who married U.S. citizens could gain citizenship, but Native men could not through marriage to a U.S. citizen. Military service. Native veterans who served in the U.S. military were sometimes granted citizenship. 1924 Indian Citizenship Act was signed June 2nd, 1924, the Indian Citizenship Act, also called the Snyder Act. All non-citizen Indians born within the territorial limits of the United States are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. This law granted U.S. citizenship to all Native Americans born in the U.S., regardless of tribal affiliation. It did not require giving up tribal citizenship, so Native people become dual citizens of both their nations and the U.S. Oh, so there's some things that kind of happen for us, and when we think about like how does all of this madness affect us, and that's what we should be thinking about, and our leaders should be thinking about, and they should be at least saying something. I don't know, like I did stop listening. I stopped listening to council meetings because all you hear them do is fighting. I'm tired of that. Like I want them to work together and come up with some viable plans, but I don't want them to do it in a way where they're just like the Senate or whatever, the top down. I want them to get out in the communities and work in the communities to bring these changes to council and enact them, but none of them want to do that. So to me, it was like wasting a lot of my time and energy. Like I was just, I don't know. It's like, what do? You keep telling people, but people keep voting for them. And so that for me is like a big thing. Like I'm telling you these things, but you're still voting for these same people. And it's the same thing. Like I left the Democratic Party for the same reason. Like they're not bringing any kind of change. Um, and then, it's just kind of like Gaza. Gaza did it for me. Like I just like, nope, can't do it anymore, and you guys are all liars. And that's how my position has been since. Is I got off Facebook because I just didn't want to get caught up in it. Like we all have to find a way forward. And so in order to find a way forward, we got to get out of the division. And we got to find ways to unify. And so I'm even watching content creators are independent people who are creating alliances on Gaza. And it's really interesting to watch because it can be a progressive and a conservative, and together they're going to work together to end what is happening in Gaza. And we've been saying this, I've been saying this, like the things that happen over there are going to happen here to us if we do not stand up and protect those rights. And people don't stand up for us either. And so they are. All of the stuff, how they were mistreating the Gazan or the Palestinian people, well, that's all happening over here. Palantir. Palantir is a surveillance company. And what is his name? Stephen Miller? Is that his name in the White House? Let me ask. Stephen Miller. I think that's his name. Yep, Stephen Miller. He's grotesque. It says Stephen Miller is an American political advisor known for his influential role in the Trump administration, particularly as a key architect of immigration policy. If you don't know who he is, let me see if I can get his picture up here. Oops, that's not him. View image. So this is Stephen Miller. So this is Stephen Miller, and he works for Donald Trump, and he's the one that's behind a lot of these different actions that are being taken, immigration, all of that. That's what he's behind. He supports that. He is also linked to the Heritage Foundation and what they call the playbook for 2025 or whatever. And everybody was up in arms about it and whatnot. But this is the guy. This is the guy that wants to dismantle all of America. And there's a lot of people that look like this, like they're like him. They justify their racism and their hate, their white supremacy. I believe he has been linked to some of those types of groups too, but anyway, so that is Stephen Miller. And so Stephen Miller, let's see. Says Miller's political career began as a press secretary for U.S. Representative Michelle Bachmann and John Shadegg. and Michelle was unseated, I believe. He later became the communications director for Senator Jeff Sessions in 2009. In 2016, he joined Donald Trump's presidential campaign and subsequently served as senior advisor and director of speechwriting during the Trump's first term. In 2025, Miller was appointed as the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor. And so he is, it says here that critics have labeled him as a white nationalist due to his association with extremist views and his role in promoting strict immigration enforcement. So he really works on things, but that guy is connected to Palantir. Says White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller owns between $100,000 and $250,000 worth of stock in Palantir, a data analytics firm with lucrative contracts with the Department of Homeland Security and Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE. And so Palantir is known for face recognition. And so a lot of the things that Palantir is now able to do, they have done this to the Palestinian people. And so this is like a huge conflict of interest. It should be an ethics concern, but nobody cares. Nobody cares that Palantir now has this contract. Trump entered into contract with them to do that. And so everything. So it's crazy. Like Donald Trump is making a rule that we can no longer wear masks. Like COVID, like you want to wear those, you can't do that anymore. And so what he's saying is we can't wear masks, but ICE can wear them. And the other thing is those ICE agents are not ICE agents. They are bounty hunters. They're contractors. So back whenever, remember how Bush didn't do a draft and they just privatized military service? That's what they're doing here. So these contractors, just like back then, like BlackRock and them, they become contractors for this service and they hire these people to come in and then they don't have to follow no rules. Nobody has to follow rules now because of this. And then it'll take years before there's any kind of accountability. Good morning, Steve. I see you have some things. Shoot, right. And then it's crazy because they want to go through this process of ending birthright citizenship, and they're trying to say that this was challenging Mexicans, right? Mexicans being that they're illegal immigrants and whatnot. And they're even going through the process of undoing naturalization or undoing people with their green cards and who have come in on visas and all of that and working towards it. They're undoing that. And in Texas, they have a representative, should I forget her name? Jackson, I think. Or that might be a Supreme Court person. But anyways, she's on fire. She makes me laugh because she just brought out Melania's whole thing. She's like, okay, Melania, you came in on a HB whatever visa, and it says that you came on a genius visa, that you're a genius, and so those are only given to scientists and geniuses. Anyways, so that's what they're saying. You came in on this visa, but then you didn't do any work in that field. We all know the work that she did. And yet that's the type. So then they're calling that out and saying, so we should probably send ICE after her and undo her citizenship. because anymore being married to, you do not become a citizen even if you're married to an American. They did away with that. I don't know when, but that's no longer like a thing. And so that's what they're saying, like go after Melania. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. It's very interesting how people move in these conversations. But the biggest thing that I will tell you guys is there's probably going to be a move that everybody just gets off the internet, that everybody just finds a different way to communicate. Samsung, it was in the news that Samsung just did a contract with I can't remember. I think it might have been with Palantir. Let's see. I'll ask again. So they went into this I believe it is Palantir that is going to be on everybody's phone if you have a Samsung. Every new phone that is made by Samsung sold in the United States. I don't know if that's true for phones sold in any other countries, but phones sold in the United States will have these, and you can't get rid of them. So they're going to have these different types of technology that's embedded into your phone already. So everything that you do is going to be tracked. AI will be able to access all of our information. And so I think that's like really, really important that we understand those things. And remember back when we used to do the Moxa telegraph, call on house phones and stuff, and then they'd say that the FBI was listening in on our phone calls there. When we'd write letters to each other via the post office, they started soliciting mail and opening mail and reading what people were writing to each other. All of this spying technology doesn't make us free. And I went through this see if I can find it. I did a thing about how free we are because everybody's like, we're free, whatever. We're not. We are not free. But so that's what people will say is like, you don't like it, get out. Remember, that's what they say too to us. You don't like it, get out, move to a different country. So I started saying to them, like, this is what the Constitution says. You don't like it, you get out. You guys are the ones trying to undo our Constitution, so you get out. Like, we fought hard to make law. People fought hard for these changes within this Constitution. Anyway, so I had asked AI, and so this is about how free is the United States and where do we rank in the world. So it says ranking free countries from freest to least free can be done using the scores provided by the Freedom in the World report by Freedom House. So this is and you can go, I think it's freedomhouse.com. This report uses a 100-point scale based on political rights and civil liberties, where higher scores indicate greater freedom. So based on 2025 Freedom in the World report, here are some of the countries with the highest scores. So I'm going to read them to you and tell me if you know who these countries are. The top on their list is Finland, 100% freedoms. They are ranking 100% in freedom. Norway is 99%. New Zealand is 99%. Sweden is 99%. Denmark is 97%. Ireland is 97%. Netherlands is 97%. Luxembourg is 97%. Canada is 97%. San Marino is 97%. Switzerland is 96%. Uruguay. Oh my God. Anyways, is 96%. Japan is 96%. Estonia is 96%. Portugal is 96%. Slovenia, and I think that's where Melania is from. Slovenia is 96%. Belgium is 96%. It says this list is based on the Freedom in the World 2025 report, which reflects data up to the end of 2024. Scores for some countries may have changed since the 2024 report. For example, Norway's score increased by 1 point. The free designation covers a range of scores, and countries with the same score may differ in the specific areas of political rights and civil liberties. The ranking can vary slightly depending on the specific criteria used by different organizations that measure freedom. For example, the Human Freedom Index by the Cato Institute may have different rankings due to its focus on economic and personal freedoms. So I asked, where does the United States fall? Based on the Freedom in the World 2025 report by Freedom House, the United States is considered a free country. It has a global freedom score of 84 out of 100. Here's a breakdown of the United States scores. Political rights, 34 out of 40. Civil liberties, 50 out of 60. So I asked, how does Donald Trump score? So it says, according to the Freedom House in the World 2025 report by Freedom House, the United States has a global freedom score of 84 out of 100, making it a free country. This score reflects its performance in both political rights and civil liberties. It is important to note that Freedom House has reported a decline in the United States democracy score over the past decade. The score fell by 11 points between 2010 and 2020, with an accelerated decline of 6 points during Donald Trump's first presidency. The 2021 report covering events in 2020 highlighting concerns such as attempts to overturn elections, overturn election results, politically motivated disinformation, and restrictions on civil liberties in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. The United States freedom score declined by 3 points in 2020, bringing it down to 83. While the United States score remained at 83 in the 2022 report, the most recent report indicates a score of 84. Freedom House is currently watching to see how President Trump's second term in office will impact freedoms at home and abroad, referencing promises he made during the 2024 election cycle, such as increasing oil drilling and launching a large deportation program. Assessing whether the U.S. has declined in freedom since Donald Trump's presidency involves nuanced analysis of multiple dimensions. Key observations from reputable sources include the U.S. Freedom House says the U.S. score fell from 86 over 100 in 2017 to 83 over 100 in 2023, citing erosion of voting rights, political polarization, and institutional strain. The VDEM Institute classified the U.S. as an electoral autocracy in 2021 for the first time, noting weekended impartial elections and free speech safeguards during Trump's first term. Policy impacts, voting rights. Post 2020 elections, 19 states passed laws restricting ballot access. Reproductive rights. The overturning of Roe v. Wade reduced reproductive autonomy in many states. Immigration. Policies like family separations and travel bans raised civil liberties concerns. Media and free speech. Polarization intensified with attacks on media credibility, fake news, potentially chilling press freedom. Online discourse faced new tensions around misinformation and content moderation. Rule of law. Efforts to overturn the 2020 election culminated in the January 6th Capitol attack, testing democratic norms. perceived politicization. There we go. Oh my God. Of institutions, eroded trust, pandemic response, policies under Trump and Biden sparked debates over individual liberties versus public health. While the U.S. remains a high freedom democracy, multiple indicators show concerning declines in democratic health and specific liberties since 2016, accelerating trends predating Trump, post-Trump, factors like the Dobbs decision, voting restrictions, and institutional distrust have sustained challenges. Decline is less about partisan outcomes than systemic vulnerabilities exposed during this era. So the key source for this is Freedom House, the VDEMS, the Brennan Center for Justice, and Cato Institute. And then it ends with, this response is AI generated for references only. So that's where we're at. Jasmine Crockett, yeah, that's her name. So that's where we're at. It'll be interesting. I'm gonna kind of keep an eye on that to see where do we fall? Where are we falling? We are not we are in decline. The empire is collapsing. Whether we view that as a yay or a nay. For me, I'm watching to see like, well, what happens? What happens in decline, because we're living through it. And it's really interesting too, because if you go and listen to the evangelicals, how they talk about Trump, and the billionaires, kind of how they talk about Trump. And so they frame all of this like kind of in dynastic cycles. So the Chinese in their history and in their creation stories and all of that, they have these rulings of in dynastic cycles. And so they will have a heaven mandate. And the heaven mandate means that it's change. And so that's what they say. Trump is the change in the dynastic cycle. And so they go through this process of all these great things, and then the decline is all these different things that start to happen. And sometimes that decline can take hundreds of years. Sometimes it could be 50 years. Sometimes it could be 5. The decline happens, and then everybody's dissatisfied, and so then comes a new mandate, a new heaven mandate. So that dynasty is going to go out and a new dynasty will come in. And some of these dynasties in China have ruled thousands of years, and they'll have that dynastic or mandate, the mandate of heaven. And so you'll hear a lot of these politicians talking like that this is a mandate from heaven, like this is God's thing. But then they're not even truly aligned to, like, they talk about God, but they are probably more aligned to the Torah, right? Eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth kind of thing. When Jesus himself in Christianity said, when you get slapped in the face or slapped in the cheek or whatever, offer the other one. Jesus talked about humanity and the love of people and being a good relative. A good neighbor is basically what he said, not relative, but being a good neighbor. And that's even in the commandments, the 10 commandments, is being a good relative. And so when Jesus comes about, he would be challenging the hardcore systems and then the corruption in itself. So the taxation, how people were getting rich, and all of that stuff, what they were doing to the peasants or the common people. And so Jesus challenged that, and that's why they did him in. And so a lot of these Christian evangelicals and them, they want to sound like, oh, well, they're Christian, but I would challenge them on that. There's a guy named Charlie Kirk, right? He likes to argue with everybody, and I don't even know if I'd argue with him, because I'd probably just be standing and looking at him and say, boo, nail, not Eve. Just be saying stuff like that, because it's just insane. People don't, I don't know, they don't understand, I guess. or they don't think critically, and then I'll go back again. I gotta get the episode. It's in season two. Oh, I think it's season one, episode two of of Yellowstone, where it is exposed about how the church is used in the process of conforming. So how John Dutton was able to get the pastor to get the eyewitness to change or to refuse to testify by labeling the reservation people, or by labeling other people as the devil challenging what is right. Really? Oh my God. If you manage to get that, you're gonna have to video go live. Anyway, so that's kind of how that goes, you know. So we have to figure out ways in um which we're putting forward the things that we need to put forward, and then in unity. So if we're aligning with Christianity, that's fine. But we also should know there's a lot of brainwashing occurring over there. And it's the same thing like we've experienced, right? In colonization, we have experienced, our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents all experienced the brainwashing of the church with boarding schools. And so look how long it's taken for us to start to come out of the brainwashing and to just be humans, you know, be Lakota and be human beings. How long that has taken to undo what they did. And so for many of the white nationalists, or the white people that are all deep in their evangelical belief systems, you know, they're going to have to challenge themselves. And then, but I'll say this too, because of Gaza, because of Gaza, um, because of Gaza, there are people in the MAGA movement who oppose what is happening there. They oppose war, they oppose the treatment, the genocide, they oppose that. And because they're making a lot of noise in the MAGA movement, and so they're saying that they're going to split the movement, but they're making a lot of noise about Trump not ending the genocide in Gaza and then trying to get into more wars. So you're slowly watching. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene is kind of stepping back, separating. Thomas Massey, he hasn't been in it. And so they're really trying to take him out. Trump is really coming after Thomas Massey. And Thomas Massey is a congressman from Kentucky. And he opposed genocide, he opposed APAC, and he opposes funding Israel. And so you see, like, they're starting to move their people out of it. And so what they're calling those people is woke, the woke right. And like they're trying to shame the woke right and make fun of them and all of that stuff, like how they were doing with the woke liberals or whatever. And so being woke doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It probably means that you're using your Nazula, right? You're thinking on your own, you're getting your ducks in order, you're preparing for life, you're doing all of that. I don't know, but that's where everything is, and we should all be talking about it. We should be talking about it. I shared out a text message because I don't have Facebook Messenger anymore because that had to go to. So losing ways that I used to communicate with the world. So I sent it out on text, and it's a video of children in one of the last remaining hospitals that are like they're in bad shape. They're starving. And every day there are babies that are dying of starvation. in Gaza every day. And before I go, I wanted to tell you guys next. You know how they used alcohol against us? Israel and the United States are now putting opiates into the flour that they're giving the Gaza people. So you know how it's like Hunger Games. They have to fight their way to wherever the base is to get their stuff. And through that, they're shooting at them, all of this, trying to unalive or kill them. They're trying to murder them. So it's Hunger Games. They get there and they get a bag of flour, and then they take it home, and food, they take it home. And in that, use that flour to feed themselves and their children, and it's got drugs. It's laced with drugs. I'm like, what the F? What the F? Man, I was so mad. I was cussing up a storm the other day. That just hit me at the core. This is what they did to our people. And we should be outraged, and we should be speaking out about it. We should be telling other people this is what they're doing. And they're using our money. They're using our tax dollars. Money that is supposed to be used to fund IHS, money that's supposed to be used to fund our schools, money that's supposed to be used to build us homes, fix our roads, build our economy, do all of that stuff, is going to do this. We are sitting under the biggest tax cut under Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill to fund war. That's what is happening. All of this stuff is to fund war because they need the money. Did you know that to build a drone and to give it whatever capabilities of bombing in Yemen costs like $10 or something like that? $900. In America, that same same exact weapon built in the United States is going to cost $100,000. And we are actively funding this bullshit. I'm sorry, it's Sunday, I shouldn't be cussing. But we got to know, we got to learn to take care of ourselves, because something's coming down the pike here, and we got to figure it out. And they are still deporting or arresting. ICE is still arresting tribal members. They're doing it in California, they're doing it in Arizona, and I believe New Mexico. There's tribal members, mostly Navajo, that I know of thus far, that are getting arrested, and then they have to go to ICE, wherever they're detaining them, and then they have to sit there. And they're even not even like tribal people. There are American people too that ICE is just arresting and putting them wherever they're putting all the Mexican illegal immigrants, whether it's sitting under on a football field or whatever all day. They're doing that to them too. And so people are getting lost. So remember how we do the murdered and the MMIW? People are getting lost in this system. And then the deportation, because the Supreme Court said that Trump can continue his deportation to other places. So now if we could potentially be deported to Sudan, is what he's working out. So this is human trafficking in a large scale. And even if you go back and you look at history, when France or England, mostly England, when England was the king, he would sentence criminals to the New World, what he called the New World. This was their punishment. They had to come here. And so that's just what they're doing now, Trump. That's what's happening now, is we can all be deported. I could be deported for doing this. It is what it is, but we can't be afraid of it. We need to be able to stand up to it and inform people and talk to each other about it. Anyways, gee, ended on fire. Shoot. But next week there will not be a Toksa Hour. I will be off doing my business, and Toksa Hour will return on the 13th of July. I'm excited about it. New Year's, new prayers, really work to make things happen. I'm really looking at how to improve Toksa Hour. I really I just don't want to do Facebook, so I just can't go back to Facebook. But I got to figure out a way to get to let people know this is where we're at, and get people to come here to YouTube on Sunday mornings. But I save these also as podcasts. There's a podcast stream that I save with these, and I've been working with a friend of mine on like how you share that out in other platforms for podcasting. And then I've been asked, like if I would be interested in joining some different podcasts. So I have to figure that out if that's what I want to do, because I sure like doing Toksa Hour and getting back to interviews. And I should have an interview schedule coming up for Toksa Hour. I have some invites, and they're looking at dates on what would work best for them after July 13th. So with that, I want to thank you guys. Don't forget to like this live. So make sure you click on the like button. Don't forget to share, so you can share it wherever you want to share it. And then don't forget to follow and to subscribe is what they call it here. To subscribe and whatnot. And I'm trying to do an email list too. So that, and then I'll tell you that I did before I go. I just did another article in Substack. So if you're following me over there in Substack, I am Maggie Ross in Substack. At Red Flower is my at. And the one that I just did was From Greasy Grass to Gaza, the circle of resistance remains unbroken. So you can go there to read it. I'm trying to be committed there to writing as another means of getting, things out of my head. Because I always think about these historical events, and I tie it to Gaza, and I tie, all what is happening here. And then the funny thing is, I have technology with no CD player. So I found my Wilmer Mestis CD, and it has all the Lakota are charging, and it has all the story, the songs, and all of that. And so I had to sit out in the pickup and listen, because that's the only CD player. So I thought that was just the most hilarious thing. And they used to sell that, but it doesn't look like it's sold anymore, because I was doing Google search, and I thought it was on Spotify at one time too, but they must have took it down, or I don't know. But anyways, so if you get a chance to listen to that, I think it would be good. But with that, Victory Day came and went, and they had a big fireworks display in Pine Ridge. I had a question from somebody about that. And they asked, do you think Crazy Horse when they were fighting that they wanted this to be a blow-up day? Victory Day to be a blow-up day like that? And I don't know, maybe. I'm just glad that because we never do anything. Nobody tells the stories, nobody's nothing. So I'm just glad that we're recognizing it and doing stuff. So with that, you guys Have a great one. Thank you for joining. Again, I really, really appreciate all of you guys, and you're following me and, leaving Facebook and coming to YouTube and still, coming to listen. I really appreciate you. And, if you guys have any ideas, you can email me at doksahour@gmail.com, or yeah, I think that's my email there. So